music. I think he titled his lecture, "We Are All the Same." So I adhere to that school of thought. So it's not a battle. If people think that Calypso is only one period, that's fine. I believe that Calypso has a beginning and it will continue as long as society will continue. But variations in each generation, if we're lucky, because some generations, because we will do a lot of comparison this time, some generations linger, like Zouk. Zouk is approaching 50 years, and this is where anthropology comes in. When the society, because the Zouk society, it's the first time in their history, Martinique and Guadeloupe, they have a contemporary music form that they can call theirs. Before, they were always invaded, so to speak, by music from Haiti and then from Dominica. And when they developed their music, they clung to it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Kassav celebrated 40 years sometimes ago. And so I'm saying that if we are not lucky, we might stay forever. And some people might believe that it is a great thing if we don't evolve and we stay. But these are schools of thought, so it's not an argument of right and wrong. It's just a matter of identifying these two ways of thinking. Another thing that Jacko said this evening that I'd like to correct, as far as I am concerned, is the origins of all that is not French. Let us crush it out, French. It's not French. It is Creole.
Creole, okay.
I know a few years ago when I used to listen to people on radio, except Wadix, of course, when they heard Zouk, they would say, the French music. Zouk is not French music. Maybe from a geopolitical standpoint. And even yesterday or day after, I read an article where I saw Jean-Claude Nero, and I'm not drifting, all of this is within the context of what we are discussing. Jean-Claude Nero, the keyboardist, or one of the keyboardists of Kassav, complaining on television. Next to him was Jocelyn Berrois, the female vocalist of Kassav, complaining to a French Caucasian journalist on television that Kassav is not recognized as a French group. Their music, Zouk, is not recognized as French music, despite the fact that they are French citizens and they have done so much. They have done more than French rock, although rock is not French music, but French rock musicians are recognized more than them. So to return on the point, when quoting me, the origins of Calypso is not French, it is Creole. Creole and Calypso, they're almost synonymous in terms of they began in the same way on the slave plantation. So the African, I repeat last time, the African languages were never, and with good reason, were never used in the Caribbean, and the African music or musical instruments were never used. We had to create our own. And from a linguistic standpoint, is Creole. So it began with Creole. The Creoles, because there have been a semantic shift in the definition of Creole. The enslaved Africans sometimes were called Creoles. The language was called Patois. It became Creole. This is where it began.
May I just I'm not even sure if the word is interject. But Gordon, would you agree that that language, Creole, our language, that was created by our forefathers, so to speak, and our foremothers, it was influenced by French anyway?
Oh yeah, that variation of Creole.
Yeah, because anywhere you move a certain nationality of people or culture of people, you move them to any area, they move with what is of them. And if anything you teach them, they will sort of adapt it to suit them. And that, I think, is how the Creole, the genesis of the word Creole.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
And there are different variations from a linguistic standpoint. There are various variations of Creole. The one that we speak of or we use is deeply rooted in French.
Yes.
The one that Jamaica uses leans more on English.
Yeah.
And we've had that discussion in the World Creole Music Festival. Wadix can share, because sometimes people were wondering, and this is where the language and the music is interconnected. In the World Creole Music Festival, people were saying, well, Creole in the broad sense could be what they call Jamaican patois. We used to call ours patois at some point as well. But our variation of the language, and the word variation, Jacques will tell you, is very relevant in linguistics, because there are different variations of the same language.
Yes.
So our patois variation or Creole is French rooted, but it is not French, because English is German rooted, Latin rooted. 30% of English words, check it, come from French, but we don't call English French. 30% is significant. So it is, you are very right, it is French rooted. And any other things with regards to last time?
There's one more thing I want to say is that so we agree that for instance, our World Creole Music Festival, it's using, right now I'm even a little spaced out trying to come to a decision on that. What version or what idea of Creole are we using? Are we using the broad Creole where everybody has their own Creole, because the Latin has their own Creole, we have ours, which is the French. It all comes from a main language, main language, whatever we want to describe that. But what is the Creole Festival using? Is it using the French influenced Creole, or it's using every Creole? Because we see reggae music on there, we see some aspect of Latin music on rare occasions. It's really mixed. So I'm trying to understand, what is the World Creole Music Festival really based on?
Well, Gordon, also based on what Bob has been saying, I remember at one time an official of the WCMF some years ago tried to justify the fact that they had a lot of Jamaican. I think there was one year they had so many Jamaican artists on the festival. People were questioning, what does Creole means in that respect?
Yes.
Because people view Creole as being French Creole and not in the generic form as Creole. And as you see, Jamaica has its patois, French has its patois, and so on. And I think they try to rebrand the festival as such.
Can I interject
Yes,
slightly?
yeah.
And as you would know, I was a founding member of the World Creole Music Festival. initially it was supposed to be a Kadas festival. So the word Kadas would have been synonymous with the French Creole or Franco Creole, because the majority of the songs in Kadas Calypso were in Franco Creole or French Creole. Then it was felt that the pool of artists and musicians would be too short, so the life of the festival would be short-lived. The idea came about so we could have a Kadas Zouk festival to include the music of Guadeloupe and Martinique and Cayenne and so on. Then we still felt, or it was felt by the committee then, that pool would still be limited. So then came the idea, McMurray and several other guys came up with the idea, why not a world, Gordon and these guys, why not a World Creole Music Festival where we could invite all the Creoles, but the emphasis, the focus would be on Franco or French Creole. So we can invite English Creole group, we can invite a Portuguese Creole group, we could invite a Dutch Creole group, which is no problem, but the foundation, the basis, the focus would be on Franco Creole. So much so that in the first 3 to 4 editions, a federation of Creole cultures was formed, where we had members from Guadeloupe, Martinique, Haiti, Seychelles, Louisiana, St. Lucia, and we would have several symposiums at the Arawak House of Culture, where we would discuss the language and the Franco-Creole culture. So whatever happening now is a total departure from the foundation, the genesis, the metamorphosis. So whoever want to give all kind of definition, it's up to them. I have fought for this, I've said this over and over. We seem to feel that the world started maybe just 10 years ago, and there's no history, no legacy. And that is the problem we're facing in Dominica. It was always supposed to be a Franco base. That is why you can invite English as a special form of Creole, Dutch, Spanish, and the works goes on. But the base, the foundation, why? One, we Dominicans created Kadas Calypso. 2, we have a strong Franco Creole we speak, which encompasses Kalinago, English, and French. The Creole we speak. Apart from, and I'm talking about the Franco Creole we speak. Creole, no kapali. So we were supposed to encourage it, and then discussions came up, the where and the cuisine. All of those members of the Federation wanted a turn to host the World Creole Music Festival. And we decided you can have the other aspects of the Creole, like the cuisine, the where, and because these are big attributes to the Creole and to the Creole life. But the music would have stayed in Dominica. So what's happening now is a total departure from the whole origin of the World Creole Music Festival, which quite a bit of thought went to it. That's why it was very important that Louisiana was represented with Zydeco music. We have had not only compa from Haiti, we have had Bookman experience with a rara, different type of Creole. That is why we have had the merengue, we have had salsa, we have had cheval bois. That's what Dede Sepui and Marseille Tupac plays. We have had Gwoka, like what Gordon mentioned the last time, involved. We have had Creole jazz, which I think what I understand by Creole jazz or Creole and jazz is what Malavoie plays. But Malavoie have never been invited to any one of our festivals except in the World Creole Music Festival in the early days. So several dimensions of Franco Creole that we just forget. But all those were incorporated. Then there are 3 dimensions of Zouk. There is Zouk Love, Zouk Beton, Zouk Shiwe. We're now focusing on Kassav, and we just tell ourselves we forget about this. But it was always supposed to be a Franco-based World Creole Music Festival. We can invite other Creoles.
Yeah, well, Wadix, having said that, I just going to continue the question to Gordon on that level. And I understand that happened in the World Creole Music Festival. But what I want to ask Gordon more pointedly, should that continue? If probably it had been kept, as you said, what was the original thinking behind the Creole Festival, would it have survived? Because other things shape it and change things. For instance, I can clearly see that probably our World Creole Music Festival may just become another St. Kitts Music Festival or any other festival in the Caribbean in 5 to 10 years.
Nothing special.
Nothing special about it, you know. So there must be some defining factor that would make it different. And why I say that, I found out this year. It was said this year. We had also, for instance, we just finished a Jazz and Creole Festival. It used to be said very clearly it was Jazz and Creole. Right now it's being said it's Jazz in Creole. So you can see it's been watered down already. They're saying because they realize the jazz aspect is not so prominent in it. It's more the Creole. So they're saying, okay, let's put a little jazz in Creole. So let's slow down a song, put a little, put a little sevenths, put a little
I don't
thing
catch
and so
Creole.
forth.
I don't catch much of the Creole either.
Well, here you go, Bob. So then identity also is something. And in my studies I did also, identity and to be legitimate in what you're doing is what causes longevity, as opposed to just falling for anything and just trying to fit here and fit there and fit everywhere. So I just want to hear Gordon's comment on that.
Yes, Gordon?
Okay. Okay. I've never shifted from day one.
Likewise myself.
Wadix,
Yeah.
all what Wadix said. What I've always said is, when we started this World Creole Music Festival, our definition of Creole music was very much based on the linguistic side. Moun ka chante en Creole. Okay? And then, as Wadix noted, there was a thought that probably we didn't have enough artists for the sustainability of the festival of the Creole language expression, which was not true, because sometimes we didn't have the budget, because we didn't have artists from French Guyana qui ka chanté en même Creole là. We didn't have from Mauritius, quite a distance, the tickets are expensive. We didn't have from La Réunion, with a population, well, we're talking about million and so on, and they love cadence more than Dominicans do, which is usually the case. People from abroad seem to like. We never had from the Seychelles. And then we have important groups in the Creole diaspora in North America. So, but we didn't have the money. Nowadays, while I'm far away, I'm told that Dominica is very wealthy. So we can do that. As a matter of fact, I noticed that we brought in Burna Boy, who had the luxury of coming late and doing all kinds of things in his jet plane and so on. But at the time, we could not. So we had to bring in other factors, such as trending. And Jacko will be able to talk about trends. So guys would say, we cannot continue with this Franco-Creole expression. We must bring an artist that trends into the festival to attract the audience. There's one thing that I noticed, that there were surveys done. Now, listen to this. The surveys were done to determine what artists should be brought because they are trending. Now, the festival is a tourism event, and tourism there is not about staycation. It's about attracting people from the outside.
Yeah.
But the surveys were done in Dominica. You have seen? The surveys were done in Dominica to attract people.
Out of Dominica.
We may have to review that. Because since this is a subject that we can stay all night, the last thing I would have to say, I was never against bringing any artist that is trending. You could bring in a rock and roll artist. What I will keep saying, it is a Creole festival, because there are many adjectives in that thing, World Creole Music Festival. So which one of them do you give more importance? I give more importance to Creole. It's not a language festival. Creole. So we can bring a rock and roll artist. We can bring a British reggae artist, but bring that artist that is trending as a special guest with red carpet, whatever, to our Creole festival. And I always make the analogy that if we're having a citrus festival, so we know what citrus is, and I'll use the word variation for cause. We have limes, we have oranges, we have pamplemousse, grapefruit, we have
tangerine.
All, and if people seem, because of market trends and that they don't want too much citrus, throw in apples, because we don't really, we love apples or grapes and those kinds of things which are exotic for us. We can bring them in as special guests. That's all my suggestion.
But what has happened, Gordon, is the other way around.
Yep.
In the World Creole Festival, and the emphasis was on the Creole and world, we now have the guests as the festival and the Creole
Headliners.
are the headliners, and then the Creole acts as the supporting cast in a Creole festival. So that is
So
one
the
of the
word
things
world, the adjective world became more important
than Creole. And this is ongoing, and we need to. That's why several years ago I appealed to Dominica. Let us decide what we want. If we want a world music festival, let's have a world music festival. And I have no problem if we want to have a world music festival. But as long as we want to have a world Creole music festival, we have to decide what we want.
Yeah.
We cannot want to all of a sudden, because what I notice what happening now is we want to bring 5 English Creole groups when we know that our emphasis is on Franco or French Creole, and then we want to know, tell the world is Creole speaking, and they are Creole groups at the demise of the Franco Creole groups, which are in abundance. And very critically, we would invite an American MC to speak English only when the majority of our patrons are French and Creole based. You can get all kind of service you want. The majority of the people that come to the World Creole Music Festivals are from Martinique and Guadeloupe. We have never, apart from, I think we brought Ibo Simo, I think in the very first or second edition, but apart from Ibo Simo the late, we have never brought into Dominica an MC from Guadeloupe or Martinique. But we went right to the US to get an MC to speak English to French, to Creole people, to French Creole people. And whenever I speak, people feel that I against the country. But I happen to be fortunate to be there, and I understand what it means. I live a Creole life 24/7. I have been promoting Creole music on DBS Radio for 29 years. Prior to that, 15 years in Wadix. I live and eat and breathe a Creole life. But anyway, let's go to part 2, Gordon. Let's forget about the Creole Festival.
Let's see. It's not true. Because we need a special program
To deal with the Creole Festival.
But Gordon and
Wadix.
Gordon and Wadix, I just something just crossed my mind. I'm saying I personally am very grateful for this program for me and my people and our cultural expressions. I'm very, very grateful. But I'm thinking probably this is something that we should have done a long time ago, right? And I'm going around to bring Calypso back into the conversation, because from the very beginning I had an issue understanding why. I knew with the discussions when you all started, there was a little struggle trying to get this name thing to be the best name and most appropriate name, and based on where we are and where in our cultural existence. But so it was the Kadas thing, whether it was going to be a Kadas music festival and all those other things. So it means that Kadas had an influence right in there. But the music that influenced Kadas, correct me if I'm wrong, was the compa music and Calypso, primarily. I'm sure there were other things, because when I listen to Gordon Henderson and Exile One, I mean, I understand his genre so very well right now. I hear so much blues in there, and it works me up so much, I'm so happy to hear that. But I am sure the primary ones were Calypso and compa.
Yes.
And then, how is it that if Kadas could influence the festival, that Calypso influenced Kadas, why can't Calypso find a nice little spot in there? So I always ask that question. And
Bob, let me take. I'm going to take first knock at this. And the reason I'm going to take first knock at this is I was once the chairman of band selection. That's a big name, but I was only restricted to only propose, but never had the opportunity, as my contract state, to actually.
They give you your mat and you have to stay on your mat.
Yeah, but then I was supposed to have presented the lineup that I was chairing, or the selection process, to explain to the authorities why we chose or narrowed down to these groups. I never had that opportunity. So I would select and then cast aside. But then that's not the issue now. Calypso was always part of the festival. Was always part. But then the thing about it, at a minimal presence, which means Calypsos would come and they would play during intermission time and that sort of thing on playback. Until one of these years, myself and Steve, who is the stage manager, I told Steve, but how can we have Calypso? And then during the time that Calypso was singing, in particular, Caressa was singing, and the monitors were louder than Caressa could hear his song to sing. Then as the chairman, I brought in Calypso with a band to have a set. Okay? I brought in Calypso to have a band. It used to be either Swinging Stars and at one time Fanatic. Because of the understanding that Kadas Calypso, and here the Calypso part of it, according to Gordon Henderson, and his fusion of rhythmical patterns was Calypso. It wasn't any other Calypso. It was Calypso. So if Calypso was first sung in Creole, if Calypso is the foundation of Kadas Calypso, and I will say it here and I'll say it any and everywhere, if we never had Kadas Calypso created by Dominicans, we could never have the authenticity to tell anyone nowhere that we have a World Creole Music Festival, and it is because of what Kadas Calypso did for Dominica. I can say that anywhere, boldly.
I support you.
Okay? So if we had Kadas Calypso, which did so much, brought Dominica's name to the four corners of the globe, and it is the foundation of the World Creole Music Festival, what happened to Calypso? Subsequently, I left, mainly because of Gordon Henderson. Gordon Henderson couldn't, or Exile One, let me say, Exile One could not get a place on the World Creole Music Festival, despite I selecting Exile One on 3 occasions. And not criticizing the other Cadas bands that were chosen, but I felt you have to have Calypso is so varied. What Exile plays is different from what Groovers plays. It's different from what Midnight Groover, let's say Wafrikai, Bells Combo. All the Cadas bands had a distinct sound. When you listen to Gramax, it's not what according to Soul is more compact as they say they play it. Below men differently.
I wish that existed with what is
well, that's another discussion, but we're not going into it. But then the most important thing is Dominica produced a genre where the musicians from Dominica interpreted it differently, and then they recorded it and gave the consumers variations of the same Calypso. And Dominicans that did so, Dominicans did so. Linford John is still singing and performing with someone who honored below men. And he's performing almost every weekend with this guy, Linford John. Linford John was chosen to be the main vocalist in Kassav. For those who don't know. And it is because of below men he was chosen. Discussions were held before Kassav was formed, but he migrated to St. Thomas and subsequently got his documentation, and he couldn't fulfill his arrangement with Kassav, and it was then Jean-Philippe and Patrick Satella came to the fore.
Wadix, I just want to, I can hear your passion. I know you're passionate about the arts, but we can never sweep that under the rug. I'm Gordon, although we might need a part 3 because I'm telling you, this is a very interesting conversation. I don't want it to go on, but it must go on because I'm sitting here and I'm hearing what Wadix is saying. I'm hearing what you're saying, Gordon, and we are not just talking off our head. I can say I did surveys about those things. Hear what my survey released. I'm just going to say that importance of Dominican music, authenticity by nationality. I interviewed 20 people from the USA, and they said for them the originality of the music and the authenticity was, 7 of them said was important, very important, 4 said important, and only 4 said not so important, and 5 of them said not very important. So you can see the majority of people thought that the music, authenticity of the music was very important to them coming to Dominica, and also 4 says important. So that's where it lie. French, well, of course, you know what the French people, Madlik and Guadeloupe and so on, the Creole people of that area, right, which the sort of festival sort of tailors for. That's where our biggest audience come from. 11 of them said it was very important, right? So basically, the World Creole Music Festival and the people who organize, they are basically have gone against over a number of years and have watered down what the festival should be, even against from the same visitors I spoke to, that they don't want to come and hear what they hear in the country again. They want to hear something different. When you come to Dominica, you want to hear something different. If I go to America and I go to a show, I don't want to hear Cadas in the show. I want to hear James Brown, I want to hear soul, I want to hear rock, because I want to get a new experience. Okay, so first of all, when you come to Dominica, you want a new experience on stage from what you're accustomed to here in your country. Also, it is very important to know that basically, what Wadix is saying, in my dissertation, music in Dominica, Cadas music has become a staged event, in that we only put it on like Bel Air and Quadrille when it's Independence time. Wadix is the only individual on radio in Dominica, on all 3 stations, that makes it his duty to play Creole, to play Cadas music. And that is very important, because you must understand the days of Foodin and Frampton and those guys there, and big, what's his name again, the former manager of DBS Radio, Dennis Joseph in those days. The radio station played an important part in terms of people's appreciation for Cadas. Young people cannot appreciate Cadas now because of our fault. The whole society and the management of radio stations, basically. You don't have guys. So in other words, anytime a man play Cadas is a Cadas program. A guy out of his selection of songs don't have Cadas. Which young DJ in Dominica plays a Cadas song out of natural selection? It has to be a program. And the program has to be named Kadas for you to play Kadas. So right now, Kadas and so forth has become staged event. So we cannot blame persons when the Creole, the people that organize the Creole Festival and they have their Creole stuff and they get artists that the people are familiar with, because young people cannot gravitate because the radio stations, there's no policy set in place to ensure, well, as a DJ, you need to pay X percentage of Dominican music when you have to ensure your log that you have played 3 Kadas, you have played 4 Calypsos and whatever. When Calypso season is finished, it's Lent. It stops here until next year again. And then we also had the third problem is that over the past 10 years, a number of years, it has been dominated. The king has been dominated by dice, right? Bobb got the crown a couple of times, and most of these guys bring information to the public about the things that are wrong about the country. There's something taboo that the governments don't like Calypsonians and people to speak about the country. They say it's bad press, when people come and so. But all those things help to kill the art form. And we must be very frank about it. That's what it is. If somebody else was king, singing the praises. Something went wrong. Oh, if somebody else, something else is singing the praises of the, yes, if somebody else is singing praises about the government, then possibly you might find that there would be a need to keep on having, Calypso as part of the whole exercise. I don't see how Calypso found itself out of being part of the WCMF when Calypso is the most dynamic art form presently in Dominica for a number of years. And what the Calypso art form has done to leave it out, I can only come to the realization that it's left out because it has been dominated over the past 10 or so years by King Dice, and his songs are normally songs that he speaks about the issues of the country, and they don't want the issues to go out. So these are real practical stuff.
But
But
Jacko, without cutting you, there's there's someone called Dr. Kifnus.
Right.
Dr. Kifnus was brought here and paid several thousands of dollars to do a survey, to do a report on the World Creole Music Festival to recommend. He interviewed all the stakeholders in the World Creole Music Festival, and he warned us on 2 occasions not to dilute that product.
There you go.
You see that product, and the surveys are there in the offices of Discover Dominica Authority. Because it's indigenous, it's unique. It's one of the only type of festival in the world. Because we later saw in the Seychelles, they were trying to have something very similar to what we're having. At Kassav, in your glory, and that sort of thing. But then Dr. Kifnus, his reports told us directly not to dilute this product. The exact opposite is what we did. So why bring, someone to explain and to direct and to advise to you, and then
they also have my own Wadix too, also.
Okay, and then I must say, to add to you mentioned Dennis Joseph, and Dennis Joseph is very instrumental because he was the one that brought Creole to the radio station. And then if you listen to Dennis Joseph's stories about that, the amount of pressure he got about that kind of language, what nonsense all you have on the radio. People looked down on the Creole language before, but he was determined despite all the criticisms. Dennis Joseph also fortunately brought me to DBS Radio in 1996 with Alex Bruno and gave me instructions. Wadix, we have a World Creole Music Festival. Disseminate the information as far and wide to the people listening to you of the base, the foundation of the World Creole Music Festival, so that by the time we select the bands, the people would have been accustomed to some of the bands and some of the music. And that's what I've been doing for 29 years. So it is the onus on the program directors, the onus is on the radio stations to be conscious of what belongs to you and the historical value. Why should you be discriminating against your roots, your ancestors? If you knew the history of Calypso, why on earth? Look, this morning I had a discussion with Earl Bousquet about reparations and repatriation. We're asking for reparation now because of what we went through. Slavery. The offspring or the byproduct of slavery was Calypso. Ibinukai Tree. So Gordon, it's all yours now.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've been through 1 hour. It's so interesting. We'll find a way to respond to Bob. Because Bob raised a salient point. But let's continue with part 2. We'll stick a pin on Bob's observations. It will come up. So, gentlemen and our audience, I kind of structured the commercialization of Calypso. And once again, I will say, when I say Calypso, I'm not talking about any particular variation. I'm talking about the entire genre with all its variations. So, in the commercialization, I don't know if you want to take notes or if you will make mental notes, but I, first of all, structured it into 4 basic areas that we can discuss. That's production, that we may call record production. So we'll talk about the history. We will try to do it from a world perspective. We will try to do it from a Caribbean perspective. And then we'll zero in from a Dominican perspective. So where did this start? Where did that start? And when, how many years after did we Dominicans start? So record production, distribution, that has evolved, because all of them, they have evolved. Music publishing, I would like us to spend some time discussing music publishing. I am curious to hear how you define it, because it still remains the most lucrative part of the music industry, and it seems to be ignored. A lot of us look up to Trinidad, but I will share an anecdote where Wadix was present with the late Eddie Toulon in Trinidad, where I made a remark because they were not ahead. They were not ahead, at least, and then live performances. So these 4 areas, if we don't have the time to finish, but at least we have that plan. Now the second list that we should make a mental or written note are the areas of revenue. I noted music sales, so we'll go through the history for the benefit probably of not only the audience, but the young people coming into it. Streaming, because we are in a period where people talk about views and that sort of thing, and they have 1 million views. And so how much money do you really earn from streaming? We will talk about licensing and royalties and the various definitions of royalties, mechanical, etc. We should go through that. Public performances, tours, merchandise sales, publishing rights. Jacko will be able to tell us about brand partnerships and sponsorships, because I understand that it's part of his thesis. ancillary revenue streams like fan club and that sort of thing. We should get a chance to run through cultural industries because this is an expression that became popular in 1944 and caused a lot of debate before it became acceptable, because we had people saying that culture should not be industrialized, so to speak. Culture, and you know, in the Caribbean, we've had that. This is where anthropology comes in again, because it's musicology we're into. It's not only music in the Caribbean. Wadix, I don't know if you're a bunch of young guys, but sports, people used to treat sports in the same way. I remember some man decided that he was going to commercialize cricket. I forgot his name.
Kerry Packer.
Kerry
Packer.
What's his name again?
Kerry Packer.
Right. And people started making all kind of noise. How can you pay people to play cricket and this and that and so on? Music went through that whole thing with the advent of cultural industries. Now it has become. I would like us to talk about the Catholic Church and its role in entertainment. I'll speak about my personal experiences. Sometimes I'll say we because it's a we thing, but I cannot avoid, when talking about my personal experiences, to share anecdotes that I have lived personally, to see how the Catholic Church has introduced entertainment not only to the world from the Middle Ages, but to Dominica that we're living in. So, let us begin with record production. There's not much to be said about it, besides the technology has evolved considerably from the days of, we can share the days where, for example, Exile 1, when we recorded our first albums with Debs in Guadeloupe, they were recorded on 2-track tape recorders, and we had to play all at once in a studio. The difference is Debs had built a studio with some level of acoustics, but in terms of the technology, we had to record live in the studio. That has evolved considerably, so Dada can share the new technology from the 2-track straight to the digital age.
Yes,
we can
Dada.
run through that.
Dada, you can come across now, because like you heard from Gordon, it used to be 2-track when they made their first album. What happens now, Dada, if recording a song? Or what are some of the technological advances?
Well, from 2-track right now is strictly digital, recording onto the computer. Right now, production really doesn't have to have a bunch of guys in the studio like before. 1 person, 2 people can produce. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Production has been simplified, and right now the equipment has become cheaper, and so it's much easier to make music right now. But the quality of music has gone down tremendously.
Why did it? Why?
Because Well, I think it has a lot to do with the utility of the music right now. Social media has kind of taken away the gatekeepers, if you would say that. Like before, it used to be when you produce your music, you had to try and get it on radio. It had to be, you had to go through the program director and all these things, clearance and all kind of things like that. Right now, social media kind of take that away, so it's just a niche kind of thing. Everybody just produce whatever they want and put on social media, and that's one of the reasons why Calypso is struggling amongst young people, and Calypso as well, because majority of young people, they're not interested in that, and they're just doing whatever they see trending on social media, and then whatever is popping, whatever is prominent on social media, is what will take precedence in society. So that's why if you look at for instance, the Creole Festival, we're talking about that a while ago, and bringing artists like Burna Boy, for instance, on the festival is because of that very reason. Burna Boy is extremely popular on social media, and everybody, just like Vybz Kartel right now, he come out of prison, and he's the hottest artist from the Caribbean period. Whether or not he can perform as good as Gordon, that doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Whether or not the quality of show that he'll be able to put on is not as good as what Gordon and Exile One can do, it doesn't even matter. But it just the mere fact that he has that dominance of social media and the youth of that generation.
1 million hits.
Yeah, yeah. So Vybz Kartel, for instance, and just because of that, he's
in demand.
He's in demand. I mean, the man price is like $3 million US. You understand? Just to get him to come to the show. So that's what it is. So recording has changed tremendously, and there's a lot more music being created, but there's a lot more lower standard music, and then that is kind of causing and they're flooding the market a lot. They're flooding the market for a lot of substandard music, and everybody doing what they want. So yeah.
I'm happy, and I'm happy at this topic, and I'm happy also that all four of you are musicians also. Have we seen, from Dominica's music standpoint, and we're talking about musicianship, instrumentation, arrangements, improvisation, from where we are or where we were to where we are, has that been a disadvantage of technology in the music?
I mean, I would say that from my personal experience, Dominica has always been producing some of the top musicians in the Caribbean, throughout history. But nowadays, I mean, it's not important to be a good musician anymore. It's like just once you can go and create a loop or something. Or, I mean, see what happening with Booyah nowadays. Everybody, it's like the music is halfway made. It's kind of pre-made already. Like microwave music right now. You know what I mean? Fast food music. You understand? It's half baked already. Just take it and put your little thing on it.
So, Jacko, you need to make us some of that. No, but very importantly, we have been seeing, and if you think about it, it is now accepted, and that's the music that gets in the views. But then it troubles me and bothers me because I love good instrumentation. That's why I love compa music. I love a lot of instrumentation and good vocals. Now we have seen Dominica, produce, when you think of Gordon and Jeff and Ophelia, even from the early Bouillon days, Bobb and the rest, we always had very good vocals. Now, what is being produced now, we're seeing a lack of vocal variation and quality, and we're also seeing a lack of musicianship. You're not hearing the guitar. It's like the guitars and the brass, and is now gone. Yeah. Now we would have heard similar type of music. Let's say with the jam band, you would have been hearing the guitar. Even the early days of the bouillon, you'd be hearing the guitar. In this like jam band, you'd be hearing the brass. But now that seems to be non-existent. Are we? And I want to be very careful. Is it a situation that we are becoming more conscious of the standard set, or is the Bureau of Standards allowing a lot of substandard? And I have to be very careful because it has been dominated. I was the only person that was thinking of I was the only person talking against a certain type of profanity produced by Dominica had been exported as the biggest thing ever. When I knew we had a history of producing music that was being sold globally, and then, it has been accepted. It is now, we have become so, not sure it's Americanized, but we now accept a level. Look at see what we now accept as jazz. We accept it. No, we're accepting it. And once the template is formed, that is the template.
Yeah.
How do we correct that?
That is where I am. So I'm
you know-
glad with the production from what it used to be to how have we regressed? I listened to the early days of bouillon music. And the nice thing, and praise God that I have been there for the entire life of bouillon music. Some of the quality with the substandard equipment are better than all the equipment I'm hearing. And I'm talking about what I'm hearing. As a man that had the biggest sound system in Dominica, we're talking about what you're hearing, the output and quality. The quality of some of the stuff, because I told Cornell once, why some of the early WCKs, the two show, two flams kind of, that section, the quality is better than what I'm hearing. And I cannot get a straight answer. So you guys as studio technicians, you are musicians, maybe you can assist me.
Well, what I would say is, from my own experience, just the other day I had a conversation with some guys concerning that same topic there, and I was saying that I remember when I just came on the scene, so much pressure was put on me to be able to play music properly, learn music properly, learn arrangement, all these little details that you're talking about. There's so much pressure was put on me for that. Learn all the things, do it right. And then I used to, force myself to do it and practice a lot, all over and over and over. That's why I end up, having that kind of vast kind of experience in the music, working with Midnight Groovers and, with Harley Butt and all in Calypso and, all these things where, and Bouillon, obviously I started in Bouillon, and then I end up in Calypso and then Calypso. And and then I end up in Trinidad and that soca thing, and Vinci and Barbados and Jamaica and everywhere and so on and so forth. It's like I am well versed in Caribbean music in a kind of way like that, But nowadays, the men are interested in that. It's like these guys nowadays, they man don't care for that at all. You tell them man about playing music, them man say, "But I can sample that." You understand? They don't care to play the music right. They don't care to do none of these things. So they don't practice. They cannot play. If you look at how they perform on a stage, they can perform. You know what I mean? Like they just don't have like what used to make the music valuable and art, and what the art form, what made the art form valuable. I know Gordon was talking about we had to get into the publishing part of it, and that's the important part of it, because there's a reason why the music don't make money in Dominica. You understand? Them men might get performances and all this thing, but the music don't make money compared to how the other music.
What if they get injured? What if
exactly
for some reason their career just halts?
Yeah.
What happened to their performance aspect?
Nothing. Look at Echo has been in operation for a few years, and Echo, the membership of Echo is still struggling in Dominica. I've been trying to get people to register as much as I could, but they men just not interested in that. When they so much money I get in when my song play, that's what when your song play, so much money you get in. So you have to register and become a member, so the whole thing the mechanism can work.
But maybe Gordon need to share his opinion on how that part of the music industry has him living and reasonably comfortable, I must say.
Right.
Yeah, well, that will come when we
On the
will be
publishing.
speaking on music publishing,
Yeah.
because we are still on production, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me just jump in, because this one might be very lengthy too. Dada gave us some insightful input on production. The word producer, there has been a semantic shift over the years. A producer, when I began, was in fact the person or the label or the company that financed the recording. So as the time went on, people start speaking about music producer and record producer. So they made a distinction, which is all right. The record producer is the one responsible for making the record, and the music producer. Now the music producer, Dada, is a music producer because he can produce the music by himself. And this affects composition. And this affects music publishing as well, when we will come under that category. Now, the digital methods of production, this is why from the 2-track, everyone playing, to digital, you don't need anyone besides the music producer. And we spoke about the quality. Wadix mentioned music with vocals, meaning singing ability with arrangement, and the role of the media. A wise man once said, people love what they know. You cannot love what you don't know. So if you have a generation, all they know is what they hear on the radio, and the radio is limited, then you cannot blame them. Probably you cannot even blame the radio, but you can make that observation. That's what they know. Now, the music made a shift when hip-hop came about. The nice vocals that you love, Wadix, they were not necessary because the vocals moved from singing to, some people call it chant, I prefer to call it talking in rhythm.
That's what it is.
Yeah, because hip hop was talk. It's got a hip and a hop and a hop, it's not singing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it went on for about a decade, and then they started adding a little vocals to it. So if the rapper couldn't sing, they would introduce a singer. Now we're following the evolution. When Bouillon began, it was in the semi-digital age, so they were still singing. And then it became chanting, something equivalent to rap. And we have to be very careful when we talk about soca and bouillon, because these variations, they underwent changes. WCK and Asa Bantan, it's not the same.
Not the same.
Yeah.
Unless we're tone deaf, we should be able to identify the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in that evolution, what I noticed is that we went through an era, just like rap, where, and even reggae went through that same evolution, where the vocals didn't mean singing. So you have a standard beat that Dada made a very important observation. Half of the music is already produced, so you just use that. And then you have the chant or the rap or the talk, whatever you want to call it. It went on for about a decade. And then, just like rap music in the US, we saw singing being reintroduced. As a matter of fact, one year, because I follow Carnival on the radio 24/7, Dominican Carnival. And one year, Celine Dion almost won the road match in that category. So singing was reintroduced to it, just like rap. Recently, and when we get to the music publishing part, we had a very interesting bouillon song, and the hook of the hit was singing. So it is coming back because it's a cycle, eh? It's coming back. So the shift of vocals from singing to talk and back to singing, it's coming back slowly, but in my opinion, it's coming back Wadix.
See, like music is like fashion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The Bell's bottom was in and then it was out and then it came back in again.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cyclic.
Yeah.
Can we move to distribution now?
Yes.
Okay.
Accepting most genres that was in its original form, it was more or less faster. And we have seen what's more palatable those days is a slower tempo. Let's take the Latin music, merengue, salsa. Now there is the bachata. Let's take zouk and compa. It was more zouk chiwe, zouk beton. Now is zouk love. If you look at dancehall, it was the hardcore dancehall, and now it went down to more or less a different type of
R&B dancehall.
R&B sort of dancehall. When we recall soca in its early forms with Sparrow, Cycle, and then we go to the Marshall in the early days. Marshall had both power and groovy. Now we see the majority of soca those days has gone groovy. Haitian compa, there used to be quite a bit of more shiwe, carry me, that kind of domination. Now everything has gone to love.
Because once singing comes into play, according to Gordon, then emotions will be in demand. So you have to slow down to catch emotions. And I cannot, I don't know why we take so long in Dominica for music to make those transitions, Because even now it's like almost like the opposite is like, the bouillon is so fast. I was doing a bouillon for a kid during the carnival season there for that competition. And when I went to the guy who's actually doing the beat and so on, he told me, remember the bouillon is 150 and 160. So I'm like, why must the bouillon be restricted to a particular tempo?
That's not true.
Why it cannot be, diverse? Why can't there be nice groovy bouillon and, even a 140 or but it must be remember it's 150 and 160.
I remember.
But this is one of the drawbacks of the digital age, because the digital age brought a lot of good, but one of the drawbacks is, I hope that we'll talk about it when we get to this segment, not the segment, the third part of the series is about the musicality. When musicians were playing, you cannot have a man playing 150 from 9 to 5, because this is what the thing used to be, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. But if you just have to turn a button and bring it to 150, so when the digital age came in, it brought a certain facility to this fast thing. And then in Dominica, this is why one of the observations that somebody wrote on our last episode, well, the person wasn't really didn't really understand that we were talking about musicology and not necessarily music. The person suggested that we should introduce music as a regular subject in all schools at all levels. That is a good idea. But in the US, where I believe that these people, they master that music industry at every level. At their schools, they have more classes in music appreciation than in music itself, because music itself is about notation, about harmony and melody and that sort of thing. Music appreciation. I think we can train teachers in a shorter period on music appreciation. And music appreciation, I'll just give a simple example. Make 20 people listen to any kind of music and ask them to identify the instruments. You know, but that's what they teach the kids in America in music appreciation, you know. Then they end up saying, well, this is the bass guitar, or what, even what kind of bass, because they can hear the difference. They can hear the different parts of the drum, where it crashed, and this, and they know the wind instruments, they know the names, and they know the sounds, and so on. So if our children do not have that foundation of music appreciation as a subject, and we as a people, in modern terms, we talk about Siwu, but we love carnival music. The success of Bouillon is because we love carnival music. We're all involved in carnival music until our society is almost only carnival music.
That's why jazz is now carnival music.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question to all of us here that
Yes, Jacko.
I think what we have been speaking about, it goes way beyond the music itself. I think society and behavior influences music. Basically,
It's societal.
Societal,
You're right.
yes, it's societal, yes. And basically, you find that because the world is bereft of its spirituality, then they'll find solace in something else. In other words, a drum machine cannot relate, doesn't have any emotion, and as a result of that, the lyrics you get accompanying the drum machine is all a device of evil and the devil. Because what I'm saying is that I want to put it that way. I don't want to be too crash in saying it. What I mean is that the devil himself was a musician. So music itself is a spiritual thing, and basically it is known how to use it to make young people do different things with it. So basically, in terms of we playing music, when you have a drum machine existing, for instance, I always question, and I said that you don't have to be a musician to play music today. I always question that music right now today, what I'm seeing is 80% technology and 20% actually doing anything in terms of musical talent. So for instance, music today, basically people are just using machines, and the human element is basically left out. So it's quite natural for us to try and gravitate back to what we are missing, because I always question myself why I have never seen a band in Dominica, for instance, which is a booyah band, not having a drum machine. How can your main instrument be a drum machine? I witnessed some time ago in Portsmouth that the booyah band was playing, and when the drum machine had a problem, the jam ended because nobody couldn't play again. So it means that to play booyah music, one of the ingredients for playing booyah music, it must be the drum machine.
Also
so that'll tell me if I'm right or wrong. If you don't have the drum machine, you cannot have booyah music.
Also variety.
So then there's a problem.
In different genres.
Right, exactly. So then already there is a problem, because I think music actually is supposed to come from the people and from the person. So obviously it will last for some years, but as you say, Gordon, it will come back to where it once was.
I can't wait.
Absolutely. So we can go to distribution now, Gordon?
Okay, let's go to distribution. Recordings in the world, we're not way back. Recordings started in Europe and the US about 1910. And then we noticed that in Haiti and in Trinidad, between 1910 and 1920, they had recordings. Now, I don't know exactly when we began doing recordings, but I would like to believe it's about the 60s, because we had no studios in Dominica. Huh? In the 60s, there were no studios in Dominica, so you had to go somewhere, Barbados, and so on. So whatever we produce in terms of distribution, at first they used to sell a record that they call a shellac record. So it was very similar to the vinyl. I meet a lot of people aged up to 30 and they don't know anything about vinyl, or they watch it like something from some other century, some Middle Age thing. But there was a shellac, so I don't know if any of you have seen the shellac records. They look like the vinyl, but if you drop them, they would break. They were much thicker and heavier, but it was almost the same principle. Then, if I miss any, we moved to different forms of cassettes. So they had big ones and smaller ones that were more popular. We went through the CD age and all the way down to streaming, which is the most popular way of
distribution
these days. So I don't know what addition any of you would want to think, because remember, we're talking about the commercialization, but we are breaking it down to see one of the reasons that it is necessary to talk about these various forms is the vinyl, for example, is the fastest growing format over the last 5 years or so everywhere.
It still is?
I said the fastest growing because it had died, replaced by the CD and all what follows.
No, I know about that increase in its thing, but it still is.
It is still growing. It's still growing. So any artist, irrespective of who that artist is, a large seller or newcomer, most producers, now we have to put the semantics, what kind of producer, I'm talking of most labels, would put, will do, usually a new artist will put at least 300, I'm speaking of albums, 300 albums of vinyl on the market and guaranteed to have them sold, because a lot of people who had thrown away their, how you call them, their
turntables,
bought that over, so you will sell 300 and you'll depend on streaming and whatever to continue. So the vinyl is back and growing. A huge artist will sell many more.
Dada,
any other observations?
I would like to ask Dada, in particular, possibly Bobb, because Bobb is also part of the Calypso, and I'm referring to revenue raised through the streaming platforms? How lucrative is that? Let's say for Calypso, and then Dada will possibly go through some of his produced stuff. Bob, how lucrative it is for the Calypsonian?
Well,
Do you receive any revenue from?
One thing I can say for sure is not many Calypsonians utilize that particular facility of the Spotify and all these things. Not many Calypsonians do that. Some people do. You'll go on Spotify, you'll get some songs there, but it's not taken seriously. As a matter of fact, distribution on a whole is not taken seriously by Calypsonians. Calypsonians are not business people. They are not business people. They are mainly performers, and then they are writers. We go to music producers like Dada. Well, I produce my own stuff. I sit and create all my music myself. Been many years now, and yeah, that's it. But this online streaming thing is just not something to talk about in the Calypso industry, if you want to call it that. I never like to use the word industry because there's no real industry down here, if we understand what industry really means. But just so people can understand, we don't utilize that. And another thing too, generally, there isn't much money to be made in streaming, you know. As a matter of fact, I'll just say one thing here. Your song has to play 80 times to get $1 on Apple Music, you know. 80 to get $1. So make that make sense. This is not really how artists make money, you know. But the conversation continues.
What's your opinion, Dada?
Yeah, so Bob is correct, 100%. I mean, with streaming changed the whole way of, music is sold. For instance, when Buju Banton was on the Breakfast Club last year, August something, he spoke about that. He was saying that he used to have his music when he spent so much money to produce his music. He used to have it on a record, then he go to a CD, and know it in the cloud. You used to have something tangible, and now you have nothing. You understand? So it's like, what happened? And he basically was saying that is some kind of some kind of way that the industry create to rob artists.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And not Buju alone. I think there's a few other artists. Snoop Dogg was talking about that same very thing. That music, they used to have the records and the CD. You have something tangible you could sell, and then now you just don't have that. You spend so much money to produce. It's much more expensive to produce music now if you want to talk about top quality. But the music, the record part of it, where you used to sell a record, a physical, or sell a unit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's no longer they no longer existing and stuff like that, and it's only streaming. And the streaming has some metrics, as Bob say, on Apple Music. You had to play your one song had to play 80 times if you get $1, and we're talking about $1, And then imagine when you're going to produce a song, and then song costs so much money to produce, thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why social media.
Basically, it's not lucrative.
No.
I mean,
but it's necessary.
I mean, but yeah, but other things has changed, because if a song goes viral, because there's also that part of it, being viral on the internet. First, a song doesn't have to be the best song in terms of quality or things like that for it to go viral. Once a song goes viral, then the utility of the song gonna go up through the roof. You have all the different platforms like TikTok, Instagram, all the social medias. And then plus you have Pandora, you have people that are doing exercising and those kind of things. Because I am part of a it's not necessarily a distribution group, but like more like a publishing group, where it's a company that does sync licensing automatically for us. And after whenever they go out, it's publishing. Right, I know we'll get to that point. We'll get to that, as Gordon said, but I want to touch it a little bit. So what they do is that I upload my catalog of my music onto that platform, and I give them the license to go out and find use for my music for me anywhere. And that's what they do. They go find people that do exercising like Zumba, or that the one with the bike riding. I can't remember the name of it. It's very popular in America. and stuff. So they, whenever they get a deal, they come back to you and say, okay, we have a deal for you, and then they give the contract and say, this is the territory for how long, and this is what is, this is what it's worth, and all these things, and then you get paid quarterly for that. So it have new ways to utilize to generate revenue. You know what I mean? And in the music industry, you need to stay abreast of how the industry is changing. You understand? If you're stuck in the any time of old, then you will have it'll be very difficult for you to generate revenue, and it'll be very, very hard for you to adapt to what's going on, and you'll be complaining all the time that music is making money and thing. But then, and even when you understand now how to make money in this new era of music, it's gonna change your music as well. You know what I mean? So the quality, again, if you talk about quality, it's going to affect the quality of music, not necessarily in terms of the sonics of the music, but in terms of what the content. You know what I mean? Because right now you want to make money, you want to sell, and viral is the way to go. And in order for it to go viral, you have to do some things that you wouldn't otherwise do. You understand? So other things has changed. There's more avenues to make money. There's not as much, and it's not as easy because, and the market is flooded. So there's so many people doing it. You understand? And stuff. So that's why if you look at social media now, every artist, what they do is like they building a fan base on their social media. You understand? So it's like for instance, Shensia, I'll use Shensia as an example. She would have her Shenyangs, that's her fan club. Beyonce would have a Beehive and those kind of things like that. And these people are the ones that really propel and support the artists and make their stuff go viral and stuff. So the artists would create content for them, and they take it and they make reels and all those kind of things like that, keep it rolling. You understand? So they create their own system, to leverage the system.
Right.
Absolutely. So what I got, music education is so critical. So we can move to the next, Gordon.
Just before we move, with regards to streaming, because it's very important, this is the most modern form of distribution today. And this too can be double checked. The million stream is what everybody would like to celebrate. Now, we have some data here. An artist will get between $3,000 and $5,000 US on average from Spotify, one of the big ones. 5,000 for a million
streams
from Apple. 700 to 1,000 on YouTube if it's ad supported.
Yeah.
So which means that your main source of revenue, if you had sold 1 million CDs, cassettes or whatever, that would bring some serious money. The streaming doesn't bring that amount of money. And as Dada was saying, the industry has changed. Many artists, the big guns, when they release music, they might put it for free on YouTube. Because the industry has changed, they use the music to support their own industry, their personal industry, because when they put it for free on YouTube, their fee, their concert fee, their tour fee will go up, and so on. So artists do not necessarily today earn primarily from sales. Streaming took over, it's a reality, and it doesn't pay that much. So the statistics that I give there can be researched. The highest paying one is Apple, $5,000 for 1 million streams. Okay, so we're moving to music publishing. I would like to start, since this is an area that we've been in front in the Caribbean from what I noticed in my lifetime. I didn't read that from a book. Which one do you think came first in the music industry? Music publishing or music production in terms of record production?
Publishing.
Good?
Yeah, publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody agrees?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So music publishing began because there were no records. And for the brief history, for the benefit of our audience, music publishing began with literary publishers, people who owned printers or print trees, in fact, and there were composers. They would compose music. The guys with the print tree, they would put it on sheet music. There were no records at the time. They would sell the sheet music to musicians who would play mostly pianos and other keyboard instruments of the time in rich people's homes for entertainment. And the owner of the work, because that's the appropriate word within that context, would get, it began with 50%. So the guy with the print tree, who was usually the publisher, would take 50% of the sales and give 50% to the owner of the work. And it was usually a composer, because the music would have no lyrics to it. So that's the origin of music publishing.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, they came up with, we spoke about recording music. So vocals came about. So people sang long before they rapped and spoke. So we saw the introduction of songwriter and composer. So the songwriter would be the lyricist. The composer would be the one who owned the music. After we saw that evolve in our region, where many songwriters, particularly in Calypso, and I hesitate to use the word songwriter because they didn't write anything they couldn't write. And that didn't mean that they were stupid. They were illiterate, they couldn't write, because Creole was transmitted for generations through orality,
To talk.
through speech. And Trinidad, they like to boast about one of their first Calypsonians. He spoke only Creole. His name, well, he was named Gros Jean, Big John, and he came up with his original music. So he was the composer and what we call the writer, but I prefer to say the lyricist, because if the writer cannot write, so but he was the songwriter for the purpose. Now, I don't know how you you plural, and you all perceive the evolution of songwriting in terms of Calypso, because when I was a boy, a Calypsonian was supposed to be like Gaujean.
Mm-hmm.
Were supposed
right
to have
composing.
the ability. Yeah, you were
Right
supposed to have the
compose.
ability to create your own stuff and perform it.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I still am a big fan of Sparrow. And as a boy, when I understood that there was some fellow who wrote the lyrics of Song of Sparrow's song, it hurt me. I mean, I felt as if something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, lyricists came into the picture. In Dominica, I hear fellas talk on the radio all the time, my writer, they're referring to
lyricist.
Jacko.
Pats.
Yeah, my writer, and so on. So we went through that evolution. Now, how do we bring all of that within the context of music publishing? If you want to make money out of your art, to go back to cultural industries again, it's either you are anti Terry Parker and you do not want to make money out of it, or you want to make money out of it. You have to register the songs. Dada mentioned Echo. I don't know, Bob can tell us what it is. It's a collection agency, a copyright society. But in any case, register your songs, and their job is to pick up a number of rights for a number of owners. Or if you're like Bob, because Bob can write, he can compose, and he can
sing.
perform. So, and he can play as well. So he has a number of
rights.
areas that he can pick up money from. But it has to be registered, and an organization like Echo will have to pick up that money, and they're like a web. All these organizations in the world, they are connected to each other, and they collect for each other, and you will get your money. Now, the music publisher is a channel to go through. Dada just described one aspect of modern music publishing, where you authorize someone within the context of music publishing to monetize your work. So they will look for work, they will propose work, and they will bring. I don't know what you guys would like to add, question
I always
to
wanted
that.
I always wanted to ask that concerning Calypso and songwriting, and as you mentioned, a lyricist. And I'm glad Jacko is there, so I guess I could ask Jacko that question. Jacko, in all the years since you're writing Calypso, do you register your songs with Echo or any organization like that? Who owns the masters for your material and stuff like that? Because these things are very important. It's part and parcel of what the convention is.
Yeah, that's a genuine question, and I want to say that only a few of my songs have been registered, which is sad, really. Only a few of my songs. I think I did Woman Time, Patasha P, and a couple other songs, and so I think because of the whole aspect of Calypso just being a stage art form, and somehow people don't see Calypso as a commercial type of music. You know, maybe if I was probably writing maybe Booyah, a band approached me to do a Booyah song or something like that, so I'd be more tending to do that. And I think I can say the same for guys like Pat Aaron and so on. We write it out of compulsion as the season, and we just do the song basically. Some guy comes to you late, you do a song, whatever, and you don't really register it. And the whole idea about Echo, which maybe Bob can give some information of, I was very interested in Echo at the start, but as you know, it kind of faltered, it splintered along the way, and didn't give much room for that type of stuff, so that interest and so on. And there was one time I think that the collection was not really anything. Basically, you feel as an artist or as a writer, you probably could do without it. One of the concerns we had through Mark Murray, who was one of the guys who initiated the idea of echo and copyrights and is versed in that area. I think most of us as lyricists for Calypsonians would take, say, 25%. I think that's a general thing, that we take 25% for a song based on what the association pays, you know, and we move up to 35% if you write the both songs. And Mark Murray once told me, oh man, Jackson, you old guys must charge 50% because the work is already done. All the Calypso has to do is just execute. So he's just basically doing a rendition. When the writer, composer as myself, do the composition, the melody of the song, and also the lyrics. So we are contributing more to the general output of the song. But I think generally we take 25%, and like I say, most Calypsoans, most writers, including myself, do not register all songs.
Bob, I'm not sure if you want to add as one of the members. You're still a member of Echo, Bob, in terms of the executive?
Well, they call me the Dominica director.
Oh, Dominica.
Well, by some kind of default. But anyhow, that's another conversation. But in terms of the registration of songs, there's so much more to be concerned about, because you can register your songs. I have songs registered, yes. I hear them playing on the radio. But as to whether the radio is registered and paying their dues is another question.
Yep.
So there are so many things to be, for us to discuss. It's very important that the radio stations pay their licenses, because that is, it's like a clog in the pipe, Guys register, yes, and then the radio station is not licensed to play their songs. However, they play the songs every week, and then you realize, but your royalty is not coming through. Right. That is because the radio station has not been paying the buck. So,
what about business places, Bob?
Well, business places, I must say that Mark Murray has been doing a very good job in licensing some business places like the hotels and so on. And there are a few radio stations that have acquired licenses, like the one we're on right now. I do not want to in any way just make people believe that none of them and DBS is. So I think at one point Cairo FM got on board. But we have a good, great level of delinquency out there, Wadix, and that is a problem by itself.
In terms of Dominica's participation, in terms of educating.
That is what is lacking.
That's what's lacking.
That is what is lacking. And we need to go out on a drive. We don't just do it on radio, because there's a lot of important people who should be listening that they are not. There are a lot of bus drivers who play a lot of music. They should be listening to what we're saying here right now, and they are not. We know they are not. So, going out to the schools, and we have to find a way to reach out to the schools and start to educate people, educate the teachers as to how to speak that language. What is the importance of that? You want to see your artists do well and keep making music, but there must be a machinery behind of them that works.
I always wanted to ask, and I'm glad both you and Jacko is there. Gordon, just a little slight shift. You write a song for a Calypsonian. Now, the season is sort of over, but let's say that Calypsonian continues to perform that song commercially. They get gigs, let's say, in the US. They get gigs in, let's say, various parts of the Caribbean. What happened to that performance? Do you still get a percentage from the performance, or the arrangement is until Carnival?
Well, here's how it works. How you're thinking of it is not how it should work, No.
I'm just asking because I'm
going to tell you.
Happens.
I'm going to tell you, wherever the artist performs, he gets his fees.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with the writer or whoever owns the song, or 50% or 100% of the song. Okay. Unless he wants to make an arrangement with his writer and say, hey, I want to give you 50. That's between the two of them.
Okay.
But according to standards, his money is his money.
His royalty.
How does Jacko get his money? How does Pat Aaron get his money? Is the venue, the promoter has to pay that same license I'm talking about, a radio station. he has to pay, and that goes to BMI in the US. That comes down to Pat. It goes to wherever they're performing. If they're performing in England, it goes to PRS. That comes down to Jacko. Because as Gordon said earlier, there's a web, and they all collect for each other. So that's how it works. I hope I'm clear enough.
Yes, it's a network.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you want to add anything, Dada, before we go into the next part.
No, we're good.
Because I want us to at this because I think 2.5 hours of talk is a lot of talk on the Friday of Mother's Day weekend. And before we leave, there's a song Gordon wrote about Calypso and a different dimension I want us to touch on, and possibly you can give your comments on it. Because I want this conversation to continue, and hopefully we can do a continuation on next Friday if you guys are available. Because we have to continue. You see, one of the things we don't do in Dominica is we don't educate enough. We don't communicate the information to the people that do not know. So in ignorance we operate. I do not know what happened or what transpired with the situation with the Bouillon song, but it concerned me when, there was some impasse with that latest Bouillon song, which got several, I think it's 7 or so million views, possibly one of the biggest Bouillon songs ever. And it had to do with, once again, publishing rights and whatever. Because if the artists, the bands, understand their rights, understand how it shares, understand everything, then it is a better music industry. But I get the feeling that there's a lot of ignorance even within the system itself, that let's hope that we can, the various associations, the various bands can educate. For instance, Calypso Association can now educate the members. The various bands can, and the managers can get to cool on with what's going on. Because what happened there was social media took it and possibly took it out of whack. We just saw the same song, the same Asian song from Dada, our guy, our Asian guy.
Kat.
Yes, he did a song. Yes, Dread Philly. And from the time he did that thing with Burna Boy, the original, or they say there's some original song to it in Troubadour, send a lawsuit. Because they to me, when I listen to the both songs, there's two different songs I'm hearing, but then as far as the Haitians are concerned, it's the same. There was a song made in Troubadour, I think around 2000,
yeah.
And then this was like a remix or a new version or a modern.
The melody is the
version.
same now.
No.
To me, I not feeling
There's
it.
similarities, or
All Haitians seem
That's
to
the
feel it is the
story.
same thing.
Or the
story.
story.
the story is the same, but not the.
Yeah,
But then all Haitians seem to feel it the same. But from the time Burna Boy, wrote on this song, it really went off the roof in terms of, I guess, popularity. And the original guy who sang it in Troubadour is now suing. So Gordon, I'm not sure which other section you want, or if you want us to release the song, because I want us to do that before. And I promise, the program director.
Just quickly, because the other section would be live performances.
Okay, great.
Probably we can talk about it after. But on the music publishing thing, we need to tell the owners of works that registering their songs is not sufficient. It's necessary.
That's right.
But not sufficient.
That's right.
This is why they need, in some cases, in most cases, a music publisher. Now they have to be very careful who
In selecting one. Yeah.
the publisher is, because a guy might just call himself music publisher and he doesn't live up to his responsibilities.
That's right.
From my personal experience, if you want to publish my song, the raw material of this business is money. Show me the money. That doesn't mean that you have to pay me,
Show you the money.
Show me how you're going to spend money for us to make money in terms of promotion. So be careful who you work with as a music publisher. And for Jaco, I hope that our discussion can assist people, Calypsonians, in commercializing their music. They should follow Dada. Dada came up with a lot of points how to sell the music. Because way back in the 1940s, a man called Invader, well, his Calypso name, he wrote a song in Creole. It was still in Creole, this Calypso. L'année passée. Some Caucasian ladies did a version. They call themselves the Andrew Sisters. And they turned L'année passée to rum and Coca-Cola. And they sold 1 million copies in the States at a time when songs were not sold in the States in millions. Calypso was one of the innovators of those kinds of sales. Before R&B and way before rap. So, but this wasn't an isolated case. Harry Belafonte sold 1 million and his album was titled Calypso. And then as time went on, we saw Arrow. I think a guy called Iowa George who lets the dog out.
Yeah.
Dogs
That
out.
is why I say I don't adhere to that school of thought that Calypso is only that portion between 1930 and 1970, and after that is soca. To me, all of that is Calypso. The last thing I want to say, Trinidad, that is why we shouldn't turn our backs on music publishing. Trinidad, they were so backward that in my lifetime, forgive me to talk about my experience, but I think it can help some kids. Wadix was there. Eddie Toulon, deceased, was there in Trinidad. When I mentioned in a seminar, a guy called Sprang Alang, I think he's deceased as well.
Is it Spangal?
Yes,
Yeah,
Frank,
they-
yes.
Died.
And I told them I don't
he visited
understand you
Dominica.
guys.
Yeah.
Because my copyright society, SASEM, wrote to me and asked me if I was the owner of Sugar Boom Boom. Now, Sugar Boom Boom had sold in England over 100,000 on the ice label of, what's the name of this guy and his guy who lives
Eddie
in
Grant.
Barbados?
Eddie Grant.
Grant.
Eddie Grant. Eddie Grant.
Grant. And that was England alone. It hit France and so on. Now, the guy, I might sound boastful, who at that time was at the top of that kind of music, that they themselves think that all of that is Calypso. They asked me if Sugar Boom Boom was mine. And I said in Trinidad, I was tempted to say yes. And I remember Spangalang watching me in a kind of way. I wasn't tempted. I said that too. Not because I know I didn't write any Sugar Boom Boom.
Yeah.
Lord
at
Kitchener.
all. So all of this is to show that some of the things that the Bouillon guys are going through now, Trinidad went through it, but recently, it was in the 70s, 80s, 80s or maybe 90s. It was at the time that we started the World Creole Music Festival. I hope that by now that they've reached our stage. Okay, we can close the session if you wish.
Yeah, just before you close, Gordon,
Yes,
just
I was just telling the guys they can round off
Yeah.
before we actually
Yes, yes, yes.
play a song. Yes.
yeah,
yes,
you
Jaco.
spoke a lot about publishing rights and so forth, and just for our listening audience and so forth, and persons who are listening out there, to tell us what would be involved in the publisher's rights. What would be a publisher be looking to do for an artist?
Yes, very important.
That's what you're asking me?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the question. Yes.
Yeah, okay. A music publisher, particularly for someone from the Caribbean, no matter what you're doing, bouillon reggae or whatever, the music publisher, first of all, think of your work. For example, we will stay within the context of Calypso. Jaco has written excellent songs. I think there's one, Let Children Be Children. You wrote that, didn't you?
No, Woman Time. The second
Time.
second song that you, Woman Time.
Woman Time.
But Internet Children was one of the songs I wrote, which was one of my biggest
Internet
songs.
Children.
I was told.
Woman Time.
Yeah.
we discuss the seasonal nature of Calypso and we lament it.
Right.
Okay? That's something that we can find ways of correcting it. But the media must help. Woman Time, after it's finished, a music publisher can take this song and propose it to Whitney Houston. Well, my example is bad because she's deceased. But she's one of my favorite female singers. You know? A publisher, if the publisher or propose it to somebody that can reach a larger market, that is one of the rules. Another significant rule is to finance music videos, top quality music videos. The music publisher should have contacts in ensuring that your work, your recorded work, is on all media, from radio, television, streaming, and so on. They should seek synchronization for movies, television. Do all the things that Dada said that he has one area that they can do. So that publisher becomes a partner, the commercializing arm of your work. Now, one of the debates is in the beginning, as we said, it used to be 50-50. Now, some artists can dictate, because if I am a small publisher, if I just started and I invest $2 million, that's all I have, in a $1 billion industry, but some guy who sells $5-6 million, some singer I don't know, or that guy who just came from jail, Jamaican guy,
Cartel,
comes to me and he said, well, I like you, I want to give you a break. I think you can help me as a publisher, but I only have $2 million. I said, yeah, I can do, I have contacts and so on. He will tell me, we are not making any split of 50-50. I want 75% and you take 25%. And I will say,
yes,
thank you, Mr. Vibes, because I know that he's going to sell my 25%. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, it's worth much more than another man 25%.
Yes,
I get you.
Yeah.
Understand.
You leverage
Yeah.
it.
Leverage, yeah.
So, in a nutshell, but we will spend all night because this publishing area is complex,
Yes, it is.
and in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to play the sound from Gordon, and you will give your feedbacks to him live. Give you the opportunity to give your feedbacks live.
World premiere?
Yes. What's the name of the song, Gordon?
It's titled Calypso or Calypso.
And
It's in Creole.
it's a fusion of
It's a fusion of compa and the variation of Calypso between 1930 and 1970.
Okay.
That is the preferred variation, the one that I like a lot.
Chers amis, avancez et prêtez l'oreille. C'est long, ça n'a pas dit qu'à dire. Remettez pas du laver. Africains esclavisés, Coréens enchaînés, qu'acclamer la liberté. Moment de la vérité, à la colonie française, chantez, chantez, wow. Calypso is yours, my friend. Calypso is mine. Calypso is Caribbean. Sing it. Calypso is yours. Yours. Calypso is mine. Mine. Calypso is Caribbean. In English we say Calypso. En Creole, on dit Calypso. You say we want Caribbean, despite the failed federation. What a massive contradiction. Sapabo, down and right. We never hear it at all. Calypso began on Creole. The story is never told. Sapabo, down and right. At the time Trinidad was Spanish, hablaban español. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow. Trinidad and Tobago. For what you've done to sweet Calypso. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow. Trinidad and Tobago. For bringing steel band to the world. No stop and start. Culture doesn't work like that. No stop and start. Timeline chronology. No stop and start. We have variations from the start. No stop and start. It's dynamic, not sporadic. Calypso. Calypso music. Calendar. Calypso music. Mento. Calypso music. Spooch. Calypso music. Cadence. Lipso. Calypso music. Zouk. Bouillon. Calypso music. Soca. It's Calypso. Before heading to TNT, she was a star.
Calypso. Yeah, Jackson.
Yeah.
We go in.
Well, yeah, I think this song. I think the song just hearing for the first time. It's a great song. I think it's a lecture. You know, the lyrical content. I mean, all music right now is so bereft of lyrics. When you hear songs like that, you just find it's different. And the title is talking about Calypso. It really is a Calypso, and the whole emphasis on the whole movement of Calypso, talking about the injustices. Basically, what we spoke about in lecture, it's a lecture in a song. And when you give a lecture in a song, it is more powerful even than what we are saying there. And I find it's well executed, well done, and I trust this song is gonna take off, Gordon. Really and truly, I'm a lyricist. I really believe in lyrics and the content, the music, lyrical content, and the music, groovy and everything else. I can see people dancing to that song, and basically the content. I'm really impressed with the content, how you merge different things and talk about Calypso, and even try to dispel the claim that people just think that Calypso is a Trinidad thing, and you transfer. Yes, we respect you for your steel pan, we respect you for that, but however, it's a Caribbean thing, and personifying Calypso as that she, as a human being, I find that's wonderful.
I will leave Dada for last, and I know why I leave in Dada for last. Bob.
Well, I mean, there's so much to say about a song, you know. But Gordon, one of the things I guess you could see me smiling there while I was taking it in. You're spot on with the Calypso thing, because the compa is very strong there. The use of the guitar, I admire that. But what really intrigued me is I try to bring myself into it, and I'm saying, boy, if Gordon at his age can be singing like that still, then I really stand a chance. One thing I've always been concerned about is how long is my voice going to last with the quality? Because every year, Rough and Ready, we get together in December and we perform, and then people come to me, Bob, after so many years, you sound the same thing.
Let me interrupt you for a minute, Bob.
Go ahead.
They say the only organ for the male that doesn't fail at all is the vocal cord.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, all right. Well, that gives me more hope then. So yes, that was one of the things. And when you go up in the high range there, I was like, wow. Well, if Gordon can still do that, then probably I have a few more years left, and a good few more years. But Gordon, thank you so much. But we tend to come and do great things, and then we disappear again. Gordon, I'm really watching you this time. I'm really watching you, that you stay there and continue making good music. And I'm looking forward to a collaboration.
Wow.
Really soon. I am joking, you know.
I love that.
If you lapse me, God knows I will expose you. I'm exposing you early.
I think you're going to respond to that.
Because it's through collab. That's one of the things you and Dada didn't talk about the income streams and music publishing. One of the things is collaboration. Getting, other
Jamaicans are very strong at that.
So look, you have a distribution person there, right there. You have Wadix there. Radio Wadix, that Christmas album we have there, Rough and Ready, it was Wadix that bust that,
gold.
Right, and then so Gordon, I really hope that we can continue that vibe, and you have all the talents around you. God bless you, man.
And I can write a verse.
Yeah. Thank you for that piece. I hope we can get that on YouTube now. We can get the link.
No, it's not officially released, but Gordon will
on the 16th.
Okay, because I'm getting calls all the way from the US for that song already, on my phone.
I left Dada for last, mainly because Dada.
But Wadix, you can.
I will play it.
Share it. You can share it with everybody on the plateau there.
Okay, no problem. I'll do so.
Thank you.
But I left Dada for last.
And well, both Jacko and Bob. Jacko, thanks for your analysis. Because your journalist cap, I noticed that you saw everything, even the personification of Calypso at the end and
Calypso,
and making it feminine and so
on.
And on Bob's request Bob requests.
Bob, I always hoped that Bob could sing, that we could collaborate.
All right.
I would have even much preferred that you sing that song.
No, you did a wonderful job, man.
No,
You
but no. Gordon, I mean, ideas coming, and I know Dada
Yeah.
will talk soon. But then Bob can do how you call it? It's like how they have them rhythms.
You see, Wadix like production. You see,
No,
stick on
because
that. Wadix.
Jacko is alright.
Yeah,
No, this is the template. This is the original,
Yeah.
and this is what Gordon production. If Gordon gives the
No, but
permission,
together, then we
three
can
of you,
start.
you,
Yeah.
Jacko,
Yes,
Jacko,
yes.
Dada, and Gordon,
For
come
sure,
up
for
with
sure.
us another a song,
Something, Jacques,
a second song,
something.
a
Yeah.
second song with the same music.
Dada can
Where
fit the modern
Bob will
touch
be
to the
singing.
thing. And in terms of vocals, Bob has always been my man.
Yeah.
There is a song I did a duet with Ophelia.
So taboo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are two male singers, two excellent male singers that I saw on YouTube doing it with Ophelia. One was Bob.
Yes. At the festival, I think
Yes,
it was
at
at
the
the
festival.
at the festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then,
Well,
Gordon, very importantly, I left Dada for last because Dada made me listen to something 2 weeks ago. Dada,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so amazing how guys. We never had we didn't even have that discussion yet, and Dada was already thinking in similar vein. Gordon, I'm actually shivering because because Dada made me listen to something, and I'm just amazed at how great minds think. Dada, your impressions of what you heard?
Well, from a technical standpoint, that's where I want to start.
Yeah.
Because I'm extremely impressed with everything. You understand? Like when we talk about the fusion from the Calypso from the 1910 to the 1970, you say?
Yeah.
And then the compa fusion of it. I was waiting for the compa part, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I was thinking like, oh, is it gonna come in? Oh, it's gonna come in. And then and then as Jacko pointed out, the personification, the story, and to bring it so vivid and stuff. All the little elements of the music and the coloring and all these things. Those are things that I would do. I was like, yo,
I love that.
The arrangement of it, the instrumentation, the vocals, all the vocals is crazy. I like even as Bob was saying, Bob spoke of your high notes and the expression, the performance of the song. Is much better than everything we have in the market right now.
I know.
And it's just to show quality. To be honest, what I was thinking of, I was smiling all throughout. What was on my mind was, Gordon really is a professional artist.
Yep.
That's what professionals do. They know how to get it done. You understand? So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it, and it's like a template to me right now.
Are we on for part 3 next Friday?
Yes.
Yeah, man, no
man,
problem,
why not?
of course. Yeah.
Gordon, so we set for next week Friday, but it's Mother's Day. I will start with
same time, same place.
same time,
Same
same
time,
place.
please, yeah.
I want to start with Jacko. It's Mother's Day weekend, and as we round off, I know you'd want to include Happy Mother's Day to all mothers in Dominica, and we'll end with Gordon. So as we round up and get set for next week Friday, 7:00, where we continue where we left off into part 3. Jacko first, then Dada, then Bob, and after we end with Gordon.
Yeah, well, tonight was a wonderful night, wonderful experience, sharing the platform with, two gentlemen that I also admire, and Dada and Bob, we go back a long, long, long way. Old and Bob, of course, but I did some work with Rough and Ready. We used to do some stuff together, so and we went to Calypso together and everything else, Dada was once my neighbor and so on, and I did some stuff with him also, and we always talk about music, in various ways. So it was a really nice feeling. I'm Gordon, to get your point of view on certain things, and education for me also. I never stop learning. I always say that I never stop learning, no matter who it is, and I keep learning from you. And the execution this morning, tonight there, just put the icing on the cake. Of course, we never really explore. So in our next episode, we'll explore all the idea about branding, which is very important, our music and so on. And you spoke about branding, so that's one of the issues we need to delve in our next session. Meantime, I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to all mothers. All mothers. I mean, we always no matter what it is, don't tell a guy anything about his mother. You can say about the father, but don't tell a guy nothing about his mother. So we know the importance of mothers. You can take blues, father's taking blues, but yes, we respect all mothers and so on. Even my own wife, I guess she's outside and waiting for me to have transport tonight, so she might be somewhere outside. So I want to say first of all, good night and happy Mother's Day to her, my sister up in Goodwill, and my other family members, who are female and who have born children, and even my own grandmother, for instance, and there are people who never born and made a child, but their whole life they have been giving motherly love to someone, and they also deserve to say Happy Mother's Day. I'm hearing people saying Happy Mother's Weekend, so I want to extend that to weekend for everybody, and really wonderful being on the program. So we look forward for next week, Friday, same time, same place.
Yes, Dada.
Yeah, so I want to, say thank you to Gordon, for coming and sharing this wealth of knowledge and his hard work and experience on us, sharing the platform with Jacko and Bob, two guys that I also admire as well. Jacko as a writer. Jacko has been in this thing for a minute. I've been since a little boy singing Jacko songs, you know what I mean? Bob, Bob, don't talk about Bob, man. Christmas time is Bob time,
Yes.
Everybody at that time, when Christmas time is Bob time. Yeah.
Biggest Christmas ever from Dominica.
Of course.
Or the biggest in Caribbean too.
No matter what, once you see Christmas around the corner, Bob time.
Don't forget Wadix in the equation. Too. Talk about Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So it's a real pleasure, and I learned a lot, and I like to learn. I like to continue learning. Learning is a big thing for me, because that's how I feel like that's how we can make progress and excel in life, is by keep learning all the time. You're never too old to learn, and implement new things and make a difference, and reach for higher and greater and stuff like that. So yeah, and thank you, Gordon, for lending your time. This is something that's important for you, especially at the stage you are in your career right now. I could see the reason why you would want to do that, because you have seen it all. You understand? So it's time to bring the order and structure. It's important in life, and thing. And Wadix is trust me, Wadix. You need your flowers, because people like you is who that keep that engine rolling, you understand? We need people like you and stuff like that. So I want to big you up Wadix for that. And as it relates to the Mother's Day weekend, I like to say Happy Mother's Day to my own mother, even if she has passed. It's to my mother, one and only mother, and there's no replacing your mother. You understand? And every day, I miss my mother every day, every day. So, but anyways, Happy Mother's Day, mommy. And I also want to say Happy Mother's Day to my kids' mothers as well, because I did a video when you have kids, that's the biggest blessing of life, because that's your investment, that is a part of you, that's your new seeds, that's a new opportunity, and a new you, in a younger form. So I also want to extend those greetings as well.
Yes, King Bob.
Yeah, well, I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to my stepmother, the one my dad left for me. The other mothers have gone to the great beyond, and I want to say Happy Mother's Day to them in heaven. But the one that's still here, Judith Elise, all my love to you, and I hope we have a wonderful time on Sunday. Gordon, I just want to say thanks, basically. Thanks for the knowledge, the wisdom, thanks for the education, and thanks for your talent. And as I say, I'm so sure Wadix will be happy if I say that again. I'm looking forward to that collaboration, because we have the opportunity now to make something else, something additional to Dominica's music, because we've done it all already. I have to be careful saying done it all, because there's so much more to do, but we can do it again, and I don't think the world has seen anything yet. So
Calypsonians who are mothers, Bob, I will not allow you to leave.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. But Wadix, that's for you to do, man.
No, man, I want you as the executive.
But to all the ladies who have been supportive of myself and my fellow Calypsonians and the Calypso fraternity, basically, like we have the Calypso fan group, the Mass Camp fan group, and so on. I want to say special Mother's Day to these ladies, because they keep Calypso alive during the year. They're just waiting for us to do something, and then they come and they consume. So we're very happy. Happy Mother's Day to you. And to all the fathers who make sure you give the mother something very special on Sunday. Whatever it is, if you make them a mother again, whatever it is, just be good to them.
And we have a mother as our Calypso monarch.
Yes.
So
yes.
We have
yes.
Joy Stout.
Well, Gordon, I just want to thank you for adopting me as the only man that can get me to get up. You know, it is amazing. I mean, the amount of time we spend in the early hours of the morning. Because what's the time now in Paris, Gordon? Because
3:47. 3:47.
3:47.
Wow.
You know, but then for me, when it is like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, myself and Gordon find ourselves discussing so many different things. He
Yep.
continued to educate me on so many aspects on life, not just music, you know, life and so on. Sometimes, you know, we get emotional, sometimes we get carried away, but he continues to support me in everything. He taught me how to be an ambassador and to be tolerant. Sometimes I can go slamming hard. But he always keep instilling in me patience and confidence, most of all confidence. And thanks for adopting me as one of your added sons. Final words are yours, my brother.
Well, thanks much. And you know, sometimes I can become impatient and lose my cool, and you help me to stay grounded. But what I would really love to see is, you see, these three wonderful gentlemen that we could really get together, Creole Heartbeat as the organizer, producer, whatever, that we can do some collaboration to mark this series.
Yeah.
Because these three individuals I admire. Well, kudos. I just hope that we can materialize the talk. You know?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, yep.
Yes.
And Wadix, that's your job. In terms of Happy Mother's Day, I wish everyone a wonderful Mother's Day, but I'm not wishing only the mothers. You know, I consider Mother's Day to be like Christmas. You see how you could tell anyone, male, female, child, Merry Christmas. I wish you all and all mothers Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. I really feel good about tonight, and the energy. There's a level of spirituality that I feel here, that is manifesting. History has been created, been written, and here is it. An embryo is going to be born out of our efforts. But I really wish we keep the candle burning on the educating of our people. I think we have so much to learn as a people. And I really hope that you guys continue. Jacko is still a teacher. Dada is one of the most prolific. He's well-rounded all over the Caribbean. And Bobb, as the man of the association, a very integral part of our history and to maintain and to preserve. That we use our platforms to continue to educate. I think lacking in Dominica is, you know, education. In ignorance, we continue to do things and stray, and that's where the satanic and evil forces comes in. But then if we are educated, we become more balanced, we become more sacred. And I always love that special quote from Marcus Mosiah Garvey: people without a knowledge of their history and culture is like a tree without roots. So guys, thank you so very much. Until next week, I want to leave you with the same song for Gordon, and then we'll get into some Mother's Day stuff. But Yahweh bless you guys eternally. I'm very privileged to be friends with you guys, and I'm very privileged to have a nice camaraderie that we can speak, and we can speak our minds and our hearts. And no matter what it is, but we can tell each other how we feel about each other. But I want to tell all of you guys tonight that I really love you, and the contribution that you have made to Dominica has been tremendous. And even if no one else notices it, Prince Wadix want to tell you guys, continue to do what you're doing for this beautiful rock, And my last words to you for tonight is I really do love you. Gordon Henderson sound, come Calypso, just for you.
Love you guys.
Shelter me. Você est prêté l'oreille. C'est l'eau, ça n'a pas dit qu'à tu. Remettez pas Dieu la Africain esclavisé, coréen enchaîné, qu'acclamer la liberté. Moment et la vérité. Adam colonie français. Chantez, chantez. Whoa. Calypso is yours, my friend. Calypso is mine. Calypso is Caribbean. Sing it. Calypso is yours. Yours. Calypso is mine. Mine. Calypso is Caribbean. In English we say Calypso. En Creole, on dit Calypso. You say we want Caribbean, despite the failed federation. What a massive contradiction. Sapabo, right. We never hear it at all. Calypso began on Creole. The story is never told. Sapabo, right. At the time Trinidad was Spanish, hablaban en español. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow. Trinidad and Tobago, for what you've done to sweet Calypso. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow. Trinidad and Tobago, for bringing steel pan to the world. No stop and start. Culture doesn't work like that. No stop and start. Timeline chronology. No stop and start. We have variations from the start. No stop and start. It's dynamic, not sporadic. Calypso. Calypso music. Calendar. Calypso music. Mentor. Calypso music. Spooch. Calypso music. Cadence. Lipso. Calypso music. Zouk. Bouillon. Calypso music. Soca. It's Calypso. Before heading to TNT, she was a star in her country. She was before the great ocean and had the many, many, many fans. She preceded the Andrew sisters, paved the way for Rose and others. Let's say bravo for loving Calypso, 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 sweet, sweet Calypso, 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 Calypso.
OECS cultural stakeholders, fellow visionaries, greetings from the rhythmic heartbeat of Dominica. I stand here as a cultural ambassador and a servant of the drum. On behalf of Creole Habit and our partners, I extend an open call for unity, identity, and purpose. Let us beat the drum, not just as sound, but as soul. Not just as rhythm, but as resurgence. An appeal to the now generation. To the now generation, be mindful of your messages, your actions, your legacy. Our ancestors fought with bleeding hands, broken backs, and unshakable faith. What if they gave up? What if they said, that's it? Where would we be today? What if Bob Marley never sang songs of redemption? What if Gordon Henderson never sang 3-5 moyen? Pels Combo Pack Yon et Moi? Midnight Groovers OTO? What if no one ever reminded us to stand up for our rights? What hope would we hold on to? This YOLO mentality, this obsession with living for the moment, choosing the easy way out, glorifying a life with no future. We must stop promoting a culture of destruction. To hell with the future is not a plan. It is a surrender. We owe it to those who are yet to come. We owe it to our unborn sons and daughters to leave something greater than pain. Our grandparents gave away land, sometimes unknowingly, and left us with division and desperation. But we have the power to rewrite that history. We have the power to rewrite that story. Let us not fight each other. Let us build each other. Let us not tear down. Let us lift up. As a people, as a nation, we must wise up. This is the moment to reclaim our identity, our pride, our future. Because freedom didn't come free. And if we don't protect it, it will slip away. Our culture is our life. We must never allow our Creole language, our culture to be diluted, dismissed, or disrespected. They are not just assets of the past. They are the very soul of who we are as a people. Every word we speak in Creole, every beat of the drum, every dance around the lacou carries the spirit of our ancestors. The same ancestors who endured chains so we could live free today. In this time of rising heritage and cultural tourism, Dominica stands as a beacon of authenticity. The world is searching for roots, for meaning, for stories that breathe. We have that right here in our rivers, our waterfalls, sulfur springs, boiling lake, in our rhythms, in our stories, in our language. Preserving our Creole heritage is not just about economic opportunity. It is about national unity. It is about knowing who we are, so we don't lose ourselves in someone else's image. We cannot exchange our cultural crown for borrowed customs. We cannot trade our soul for imitation. Dominica, let us return to our roots with pride. Let us teach our children the songs of our land. The sounds of Chubby, Gordon, Ophelia, Nacio. Let us wear our hat national. Lege Creole with pride and speak our Creole with power. For when we honor our culture, we honor our ancestors and we secure the future. Creole is not just a language. It is a memory. It is an identity. It is power. It is ours. Creole c'est kilti nous, c'est vie à nous, identité à nous. C'est pour nous pas quitter Creole la mort. C'est pour nous pas quitter culture la mort. Nous dit en responsabilité pour parler langue là, pour protéger culture là. Apon zafanou lang la, apon zafanou et tout zafan légion timamay, kilti la. Si nous pas fait ça, sa maman nous, sa papa nous, qui a sous la nous. À nous saluer mémoire chef Jaco, chef Bala, Congoré, Jupiter. À nous saluer mémoire Facel, Cicero Kwashi Juba. À nous saluer mémoire Zombie, Nico, Sandy, Mabouya. Yo tracé en chibé pour nous. À nous saluer drapeau nous. À nous servilège national nous. Et puis croyance. Servilège créole nous. Et puis fierté. Et puis dignité. À nous préserver culture là. À nous pas laisser créole la mort. À nous pas laisser culture la mort. Et ça a sorti au fort qu'est à moi. This is a message from the Creole ambassador of language and culture in Dominica, Prince Wadix. Our ancestors endured the unimaginable. They withstood the brutality of the whip, the horror of rape, the agony of chains, the pain of being stripped of dignity and freedom. Yet they rose, they fought, they survived, so we could live free. Today we are no longer enslaved by chains, but some of us are still imprisoned in our minds. Youth violence, violence against women, disrespect, destruction. These are the new chains that hold us back. It is time to break the cycle. Young people, you are the dream our ancestors fought for. You are the new warriors. Fight not with your fists or hate, but with knowledge, respect, and unity. To every man and woman listening, violence against women must end and end now. Youth violence must stop and stop now. We owe it to those who suffered before us. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the future. Let us not betray their sacrifice. Let us free our minds and lift up each other and build a nation of peace, pride, and power. Let's break the chains once and for all. Let's live in unity. Let's rise as one people, one blood, one nation, Dominica. This message by the Creole Ambassador of Language and Culture in Dominica, Prince Wadix. God bless the people of Dominica.